So choose the problems you can live with. And like I said, I like to drop stuff off in person, and I'll show you why. Because you really, get the vibe of a place. And this was Bozell where I worked long ago. And Adweek used to do these things where somebody would go and sort of do portraits of the lobby and the vibe of the people. And they nailed it with Bozell. Bozell was in this old Stearns department store building in New York. And they actually filmed a lot of the movie Big there with Tom Hanks. And they did the tricycle scene along Executive Row. And they actually kept this huge gumball machine there. So we had this, it must have been like 8 or 10 feet tall gumball machine when you walked in. And the gumballs were, seriously like this big. And it was just a challenge, to see how much tooth decay you could get in your mouth at once. But, this was a cube that I had at Amirati right after school. This was the floor plan of half of the creative floor at EuroRCG. And I sat there. No, I sat there. They misspelled my name. That shows you how fucking big it was. But I mean, that was just monstrous. Here's my office, a little bit of it at Publicis. But the best part of that office is that's the sunset I see every night, looking out over Puget Sound. And Lord knows I see it every night and most weekends. And here's something. So Publicis is pretty corporate. It's by far the biggest agency in Seattle. T-Mobile is $600 million worth of business, TV heavy. The next biggest agency might be, oh gosh, maybe 75 million, maybe long duty. So I mean, you can see we dwarf the other agencies. Now, Cal McAllister, a guy who I went to school with, has an agency, Wexley School for Girls. Are you guys familiar with that? Okay. So they're about 180 degrees away from us. First, their new building they painted yellow. Okay. And then my buddy Kyle, who started working there, just took some pictures. All right, so our conference rooms look like more akin to like a corporate office. Okay, this is Wex. You've got a carved bear. You've got Sears, like my parents would take my brother and I like letters and Holloway. And toadstools with an art director. That's the art director, I think, Rita. They had an old camper as a conference room, or Lord knows, old camper at an agency. You guys are creative. There's a white conference room. They actually have jars with white powder that's labeled cocaine. So, my friend Kimberly, who's an art buyer watching in New York, was just out last week, and she went in there and like after she left, like, I need to meet you for a drink. That place was fucking whack. And I'm like, yeah, Ian. And she's like, I want to work there. And I'm like, yeah, all right. So, I mean, it has a vibe. That could be any agency, but that's, I asked my friends at Walrus in New York to send a picture. That's what they call that. So that's Ryan, and that's, gosh, everybody wears Paul Smith, who's on top of Ryan. I think you can. It's your life, it's your job. All right. Another thing about initiative, any questions so far?
One quick question.
All right.
Really big gaps that's out there.
I think definitely. I get asked people and I say, I will write me here. We'll do like a reality check. Was I good about returning? Most people ultimatums, like, if I work within 24 hours, I'm going to go change you're a jerk. I mean, but it's like, if you spend like once a week, I mean, I think the longest it's ever taken me is like 2 weeks. Like I remember I sent a note to the recruiter at the circus saying, hey, we're looking, for young art directors. Could you, I'm slammed. Could you send me a couple names and I'll call them? What DC did, all circus email to read portfolios, and then I just staged a for a weekend and looked at all these poor fingers writing notes. Like if you're with Chicago agencies, say, hey, I can send you a PDF, but I was wondering if I could drop my book off in person and maybe, buy you a cup of coffee. Like we have Tully's, and Starbucks right below our building. So if somebody drops something off, I am not, the global creative head of Publicis. It's not like I can't take 5 or 10 minutes to buy you, a $2 cup of coffee. I think it's $1.97 last time I checked for a grande drip coffee. And spend like 10 minutes with you. Lord knows enough people did, for me when I was starting out and still do. So, I'm saying like drop it off if you're like doing your world tour. I don't know, are most of you guys thinking of staying in Chicago or branching out? Like, what's the consensus here? All right. See, I mean, like I did the search in New York. I also did it in San Francisco. And I mean, I know times are really tough. Everybody that's got a job is worried about their job, just like everybody who's looking for a job is worried about getting a job. But when I looked, I would try to drop off, we didn't have PDFs back in '98 when I was busting through San Francisco and later New York, but I would go in and, even if you just dropped off your book, I would, say, hey, I've been walking all over town, can I just like hang out in the lobby for 10 minutes and rest, I mean, I just hung out in Goodby to look at all the work that they had up. And the funny thing was, like, I was, I was like, please wouldn't it be cool if like Jeff or Rich actually walked by when I was at Goodby? And actually I'd been talking with Linda Harless. I was freelancing at Grant Scott and Hurley, and I was walking down California Street, and sure enough, Rich Silverstein, true story, walks out of McDonald's. And I'm like, there he is, one of the two guys, that started Goodby. And I was like, hey, Rich. And he's like, hey, what's up? And then he looked at me, he's like, do I know you? This like little like, crotchety guy. He's like, do I know you? And he's like looking me up and down. I'm like, no, not yet. That's why I'm saying, hey, Rich. He's like, all right, very funny. Like I was standing between him and I think his Porsche. And I was like, I'm bigger than him. And I was like, listen, I just sent my book to Linda. We've been talking, but you could really expedite the process. And he's like, no, Linda's there for a reason. She looks at books, and if she passes it on to other people, and they pass it on to me, and then I look at it, and then I want you in, and then I call you in. I'm like, all right, just want to let you know, Dave Holloway, have a good night, that sort of thing, but, whatever. But I mean, like, by walking in there and dropping stuff off, at least there's the chance for divine intervention. So, And then, like I said, write one person a week. And, if I see something, that I admire, I write somebody and just, jot a little note. So this is like stuff I've clipped. And, these people, will get shameless, notes handwritten on Crane stationery from me. So, and here's another thing. Like, I was talking with Ryan. I'm kind of shy until my second Sierra Nevada, and then like world class. A lot of, and I figured out a way around use drugs by our physicians. So what I did was I found a picture of the Watergate hearing, and I did this little mailer, and I figured, okay, I'll choose yellow because it's bright, it'll stand out a little bit. So Mr. Holloway, tell us, and this has been modified to something different. It was basically like, why should you on this account? And I customized it for every age, and then I wrote about my accomplishments in legal terms. And I sent it out, and you would not believe the number of people back. And this was when I was looking for account jobs. I had so many. I had J. Walter Thomas send me train tickets. It wasn't a normal train. It was like what, the Metroliner at the time. So I was in New York. Nice going. But I did that little goofy today. But it gets into what Jeff was saying. Add what you want. So that for a scholarship, I think. Through